Greetings and welcome back to Pseudo's journey through the Japanese air tech tree in War Thunder, a series of subpar guides made for unskilled free-to-play players by an unskilled free-to-play player. This fine day, we shall be starting off Rank 2 of the Japanese air tech tree strong with the first of the legendary zeros in the tech tree, the A6M2-N. This is a float plane fighter which can be found at battle rating 2.3 in rank 2 in the first line of the Japanese air tech tree. The reputation of the Zeros precedes them, and they are the sole reason many people partake in this magnificent tech tree. For those of you who are unaware, the Zeros are the family of planes with the prefix A6M and are the most well-known fighters used by Japan during World War II due to their incredible dogfighting capabilities. In terms of notoriety, they are possibly the third most well-known propeller planes after only the P-51 Mustangs and the British Spitfires. The A6M2-N is a good plane and has some exceptional qualities of the Zero family, but its role as a float plane holds it back from the full potential of a Zero fighter. Let's look at that flight performance to see what I mean. To start out with, the A6M2-N is just an A6M2 with a float attached. As such, its performance is noticeably worse than the rest of the Zero family. Of course, the turn performance is excellent. One of the things you will notice about the Zeros is that you really don't need to focus on energy management, as even at low energy states, they typically just go where you need them to go. However, the A6M2-N is a little bit of an exception. The floats cause a lot more drag and a lot less lift. This means that while you can outturn most enemies, planes like the Spitfire and the I-16 can out-dogfight you if they have the energy advantage, so be careful. Especially after sustained turn fights, you will be out of energy and many enemies can simply run away or BNZ you. They don't make you bad per se, they just tip the scales enough to allow a skilled player in a good plane to be able to outperform you. The rudder is very good, and aiming the nose of the A6M2 is as easy as it gets. If you're learning to aim, this is one of the most forgiving planes you'll find. The roll rate is rather poor as with most float planes, so be very mindful of that and try to use your rudder performance to roll and turn more than the ailerons. The climb rate is respectable. You can put your nose up at 15 degrees and you will find yourself up higher than pretty much anything except the typical MiGs and Yaks you would expect. The biggest issue of the A6M2-N is that the engine is very weak. You will honestly feel like a biplane a lot of the time and will frequently be the slowest person on your team. Be prepared for absolutely everyone to outrun you if they choose to, and also be mindful that the added weight of the floats means that you will have a much harder time recovering the requisite speed and lift after a turn fight to pull up and avoid the ground. The durability of the A6M2-N is just as bad as a lot of the other Zeros. It is easy to ignite and doesn't take damage well. Even if your damage indicator doesn't show that any of the hits to your plane were that severe, the performance tanks after even a few parts of the plane go orange. It does have an EFS module, but the chances that this will be useful are slim to none with how frail the plane is. Overall, you're a solid turn fighter which is very slow and very frail. You don't recover energy well and have to be very careful to avoid losing lift and crashing when low to the ground after bleeding energy in long dogfights. For the mechanization of the A6M2-N, you have landing, takeoff, and combat flaps. The landing and takeoff flaps are really only nice for water landings, as you spawn a few feet off the airfield in air battles so you never normally have to worry about takeoff. The combat flaps can be nice in a fight to get a little extra turn performance, but remember that you already have a lot of drag and not a lot of energy, so just be careful about when you use them. You have no gear control, but I must note that you can in fact remove the floats by skimming as parallel to the runway as you can at about 300 kilometers per hour. You need to be careful as it is very easy to crash if you do it improperly. Doing this will give you the full-fledged flight performance of a Zero and pretty much just give a buff to all your performance metrics, but I chose not to for the sake of taking an objective look at the plane in this video. Feel free to do this if you're comfortable with it, as it is a major improvement. For water landings, they take a fairly long time and you have to be quite slow. You don't have much control once you're in the water, so the standard disclaimer applies only to land where you're sure you have both enough space to land and take off in a straight line without crashing. This is typically more of a gimmick than anything practical, but they're fun in the event that you want to do them. For ground landings, go slow and parallel to the ground and just hope like crazy you don't explode when you inevitably nose over. For forward armaments, the A6M2-N sports two 20mm Type 99 Model 1 cannons and two 7.7mm Type 97 machine guns. The 7.7mm machine guns are the same pitiful ones you've played with in Rank 1. They do little damage and take hundreds of shots to kill even light fighters. You get a healthy 1,360 rounds of ammo and several belts, but they will all be useless. At this BR, just use them to try to scare people away. The 20mm cannons, however, are simply fantastic. These are probably my second favorite guns in the entire game, and they can frequently one-shot enemies. They are incredibly potent compared to any of the fast-firing guns you've had before. They have several good belts, with the Universal being my preferred belt, but the Tracers and Default belts also being excellent. The catch is a very major one which becomes quite common in the Japanese air attack tree. Their incredibly low ammo count. They only get 120 rounds, and at a rate of 516 rounds per minute, you only get a few seconds at most of these amazing rounds before you're stuck with nothing but 7.7mm. As such, you need to start practicing serious trigger discipline. Start learning about how the rounds curve and how much to lead them. It is very important with this plane, and it is a crucial skill that you have to learn before proceeding any further through the Japanese air attack tree. Sadly, the days of spray and pray are left behind us in Rank 1. Well worthwhile though, with how good the damage on these guns is compared to the initial ones at Rank 1. The A6M2-N can carry two 60kg Navy Type 97 No. 6 ground bombs. However, these are very weak bombs, so just don't. They will never be useful. On to the playstyle of the A6M2-N. It is the Zero Classic. You should climb up at the start of the match, find distracted opponents which are high up, and dogfight your way down to the ground till there are no enemies left. Your float does complicate things though, as you may not win dogfights against good planes with an energy advantage. Always keep an eye out above you and be looking for people who might try to capitalize on their much higher energy. If they are lining up a boom and zoom pass, break away from your dogfight and avoid it at all costs. Also, keep an eye on your speed close to the ground, as losing speed and lift is easy and crashing even easier. As you really can't pull out of a dogfight once you're in one, if you notice your energy dipping down or an enemy winning the fight, there's really nothing you can do. Stick close to your teammates so you never get in this situation. In naval battles, you can theoretically capture points, but the chances of that ever actually happening are very low. The naval AA is crazy good, and timing the landing just right so you can stop in and take off from a cap point is very tricky. If you can pull it off though, it is a massive help to your team in naval battles. For planes to look out for, the MiG-3 can outclimb you and is probably the most OP plane in the game for its respective BR at the moment, so don't underestimate them. As stated earlier, both the Spitfires and I-16 can out-dogfight you if they start with the energy advantage, so be very cautious and have your head on a swivel. For the looks of the A6M2-N, it looks like a Zero with several floats strapped to the bottom, and that's precisely what it is. The Zeros have always been the face of the Japanese air attack tree to me, so I can't help but enjoy it, despite how stupid the floats may look. It only has one paint job, which is a rather classic tan with red accents, and it isn't as good as the Japanese green in my opinion, but it's still not a bad look. The cockpit is fairly nice and standard for the Zeros. Remember, I really never play first person, so this is all a subjective view from somebody who has no idea what they're talking about. It has fairly decent visibility in most directions, especially rearward. There's a good bit of bracing and the forward visibility isn't the best, but overall it's fairly decent in terms of visibility. You sit very high up, so things like the wings don't really get too much in your way. You sit a little farther back in your seat than I prefer, but that's entirely up to your opinion. The gun sight is a very nice holographic scope, and it is eons ahead of the gun sight on the Kiko. The finances of the A6M2-N aren't too bad. It costs 7,900 RP to research, 10,000 SL to purchase, and 3,000 SL to slot, bringing us up to a total of 13,000 SL to buy and slot. The repair cost of a fully upgraded A6M2-N is 449 SL in arcade battles and 919 SL in realistic battles. You will notice that the cost of things very starkly increases once you hit a new rank, so don't be too surprised to see higher prices. This new price range will be fairly standard for rank 2. For the modifications, get the fuselage repair, the compressor, and the airframe first. Then get the engine for desperately needed power, as well as the 20mm belts and the new 20mm guns, as you need every shot you can to count with them. Then get the engine injection, cover, and wings repair. After that, get the rest of the performance mods. Lastly, get all the 7.7mm machine gun stuff and the bombs, as it's all generally useless. That is a wrap on the A6M2-N float planes, the first of the amazing Zeros in War Thunder and our first plane in Rank 2. It's a little underwhelming, but don't worry, that's mainly due to the floats. Once we reach the actual Zeros, you'll get to see the full power of the tech tree. Despite its issues, it's actually still quite a decent plane, and I had a lot of fun with the dogfights and having my beloved 20mm cannons back. I'd be honored to see you next time, where we'll be covering the successor to the very fun Key 45 airframe over the interceptor line, with a similar style and doctrine, the J1N1. Whether you're there or not, I thank you for tuning in today.